All right, today we're jumping into one of the most incredible stories of expansion from the ancient world. We're going to break down the blueprint for how a small, local idea went absolutely global, way before any of the technology we take for granted today. So let's get right to it. Here's the big question for today. Really think about it. No social media, no instant messages, no planes. How on earth do you get an idea to catch on across different cultures, languages, and all under the thumb of a massive empire? We're going to use the story of one man, a guy named Paul, as our case study to figure it out. So our story really kicks off in this big, bustling city called Antioch. It's here that the leaders of this new movement decide, you know what, it's time to go big. So they tap two of their main guys, Paul and his partner, Barnabas, and send them out to take the message on the road. And this isn't just some casual trip. It's a mission, a strategic one, with a truly global ambition. Now, this first journey, you can think of it as basically a test run. They travel through these key regions, and they're talking to two very different groups. Their fellow Jews, and, this is crucial, non-Jews who were called Gentiles. The message was pretty direct, but the result? Well, it was a mixed bag. They definitely faced some serious pushback, but they also found this surprisingly open and receptive audience among the non-Jews. And that discovery, well, that was a light bulb moment that was about to change everything.
Because that early success actually created a massive new problem. A full-blown identity crisis that threatened to stop the whole expansion cold. With all these new non-Jewish people coming on board, this huge fight broke out inside the movement. The question was, who exactly is this for? And what are the rules of the club?
And this was the million-dollar question. For these new folks, was it a package deal? Did they have to adopt this whole ancient set of Jewish cultural and religious laws to be considered a real member? The answer to this was going to decide if the movement stayed a small, local sect, or if it could become something truly world-changing.
So you've got these two camps. On one side, you have the traditionalists who are saying, yep, to get in, you have to do it all, you follow our laws, you adopt our culture. But Paul was pushing for a totally different path. He wanted a movement that was open to anyone, anywhere. He argued that belonging wasn't about jumping through a bunch of cultural hoops, but about something else entirely.
And that something else was grace. This right here, this is the whole ballgame. The leaders back in Jerusalem eventually landed on Paul's side. They decided that acceptance was a gift. It wasn't something you could earn by checking boxes on a to-do list. This one decision was the key that unlocked everything. It just demolished the single biggest cultural barrier to going global. Okay, so with that huge internal fight settled, Paul basically gets the green light. He has a clear mission, and he can take what he learned from that first test run and build a repeatable strategy, a real blueprint for spreading out all across the Roman Empire. So on his next trips, look where he goes. He's not just wandering around the countryside. He's deliberately targeting the big leagues, major cities and cultural powerhouses. Places like Philippi, a proud Roman colony. Athens, the brainy capital of philosophy. Corinth, a massive commercial crossroads, and Ephesus, this huge center for pagan worship. He was planting this idea right in the heart of the action.
And in every single one of these cities, a bizarrely predictable pattern starts to emerge. Paul's message shows up, it causes a major stir, and it leads to fierce opposition. We're talking public riots, like the one kicked off by guys making idols whose business was suddenly threatened, and even getting thrown in jail. But here's the fascinating part. Every single time, all that opposition seemed to backfire. The message didn't just hang on, it actually thrived, leaving behind a small but tough little community of new believers.
So after years of this work, and against the very strong advice of his friends who could see disaster coming, Paul makes a really fateful choice. He goes back to Jerusalem. And this is where his blueprint, his whole strategy, is about to face its biggest test yet. Not some angry mob this time, but the full crushing weight of the Roman legal system.
And sure enough, just like everyone warned him, he gets arrested. What follows is this confusing, drawn-out series of trials. But Paul is no fool. He's a Roman citizen, and he knows how to play the game. He defends himself, and he does it brilliantly. But when it's obvious he's not going to get a fair shake locally, he plays his trump card. He appeals directly to Caesar. This was an absolute masterstroke. It forces the Roman authorities to do the one thing he wanted most, give him an all-expenses-paid trip to Rome.
And just like that, the final, most dramatic leg of his journey begins. He's technically a prisoner of the empire, but now he's on an official, state-sponsored voyage to the very center of that empire, Rome itself. The journey there was anything but smooth. I mean, he survives this absolutely catastrophic shipwreck, gets stranded on the island of Malta, and yet, even as a prisoner, he somehow becomes the de facto leader of the survivors. The guy was just unstoppable. So when he finally arrives in Rome, the mission has reached its symbolic peak. So here it is, the punchline of the whole story. Paul is under house arrest in Rome. He's literally chained to a guard. But the very last words of the entire account are so powerful. They say he was preaching his message boldly and without hindrance. The irony is just incredible. The very empire holding him prisoner couldn't stop the idea from spreading from inside its own capital city. And that brings us right back to where we started. This whole story shows us that the most powerful ideas aren't just about good strategy. They have a core message that is accessible, that can adapt, and that is incredibly resilient. One that seems to grow not in spite of opposition, but sometimes because of it. So what makes an idea so powerful that it just can't be stopped? Maybe that's the blueprint. Thanks for joining us.